I want to thank my friend and my mayor, Eric Adams, for your partnership and your leadership on our very first New York City budget. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank each and every member of the New York City Council who has joined us today, and there they are. I especially want to thank Councilmember Justin Brannan, our finance chair. I want to thank our Deputy Speaker, the first Deputy Speaker of the New York City Council, Diana Ayala. Our entire leadership team and all of the members of the Council's budget negotiating team. I thank them for their hard work and dedication throughout this budget process. This could not have been possible without you and your work. I also want to thank our entire fantastic, amazing, incredible finance unit led by Tanisha Edwards. The importance of this fiscal year 23 budget cannot be overstated. We are facing challenging times, and from a budget perspective, we're facing rough waters due to the loss of federal stimulus funding and the impacts of this pandemic and everything that it's done to our city. At this significant juncture for our city, this council has recognized that the strength of our communities is critical. We know that in order for our communities to be safe and for our city to be stronger, we have to invest in New Yorkers. That is why we have advanced a vision for a more balanced approach to making our communities safer. This budget is the start of realizing that goal. In this budget, we are investing in young people, our communities, those underserved by our government for too long, and all New Yorkers. Whether it's helping our unhoused New Yorkers, undocumented New Yorkers, or those in need of food assistance, we are expanding access to key services, protecting our homeowners, providing opportunity, and ensuring sanitation services and parks are priorities for all communities. We're making critical investments in programs and services as the path to our collective success as a city. And we will continue to do the work of ensuring that the budget serves all New Yorkers. This council is also different in recognizing that the budget process is a year-round endeavor that requires our consistent attention to how it impacts our communities. And today, we're announcing our agreement with Mayor Adams on this budget that supports so many programs and services. We are also clear about the need for us to keep our focus on monitoring the budget, and this council is equipped to do that work, and we're focused on it. A budget that strengthens communities to make them safer, addresses historic inequities, and aids in our city's recovery and what New Yorkers need and what they demand. We are fully committed to that goal, and we know that this is the beginning of that process, not the end. When crafting this budget, we made sure that the voices of each council member reflected in our priorities. This is a historically diverse and the first women majority council, and each member knows the needs of their districts better than anyone else. We understand that our communities deserve investments through key programs that deliver health, safety, and opportunities for our constituents. This $101 billion budget, the council secured a record level of funding for our priorities through these negotiations with Mayor Adams. We secured $1.15 billion in added investments, representing nearly 90% of the total dollar figure of the priorities that were outlined in our budget response. That is an unprecedented outcome for this council. This funding will go towards supporting our cultural institutions and libraries, youth and children's services, human services, parks, sanitation, and much, much more. This could not have been accomplished without the strength and work of this body, which speaks to the amazing individuals who make up this historic city council. Deputy Speaker Diana Ayala was relentless. Yeah, you can give it up for Diana. She was relentless in advocating for fully funding rental assistance programs and increasing the rates of City FEP's rental vouchers to match Section 8 levels, which we know is an effective way to help thousands of New Yorkers seeking a stable roof over their heads. Majority Leader Keith Powers fought hard He fought hard to expand support for our beloved cultural institutions as well as meeting the needs of our libraries. Majority Whip Selvina Brooks Powers, along with Minority Leader Joe Borelli and Council Member Camila Hanks. They established a bipartisan effort. Let's teach Washington some things, City Council members. They established a bipartisan effort to help secure an important property tax rebate for our small homeowners who we know are in need of this challenging moment. Our finance chair, Justin Brannan, helped co-lead our efforts to advance this budget. He also passionately made the case for an eye care pilot program informed by his own experiences. He can see now. Council member and sage Gail Brewer. Councilmember Brewer helped enhance funding for key agencies, including the Department of Investigation, so they have the capacity to do their important work effectively. Councilmember Linda Lee was a very strong proponent of uplifting immigrant families through initiatives like adult literacy programs, for which we have doubled the baseline funding in this budget. Councilmember Crystal Hudson, chair of our Aging Committee, championed our senior initiatives, including Get Food Recovery Meals and IT education for older adults. Councilmember Eric Dinowitz, as chair of the Jewish Caucus, fought to include funding to support communities affected by hate crimes and violence. As chair of the Higher Education Committee, he advocated for investments in CUNY programs that will expand opportunities for learning and advancement. Councilmember Shaker Krishnan. We all know what his middle name is. Pushed for deeper investments in parks, ensuring that they have the staff and resources to maintain and care for our beloved open spaces. Councilmember Julie Wan understood how important our human service workers are and made them a priority to help us fund cost of living adjustments for our service providers. Councilmember Lynn Schulman, a long-time LGBTQ and healthcare advocate, pushed for HIV/AIDS Services Administration, SROs, to support HASA. Councilmember Rita Joseph. chairs the Council's Education Committee, never wavered from her commitment to funding our schools and students through community schools, DOE community coordinators, and ensuring that special education and daycare providers have the pay parity they deserved. She has also helped us to be clear about the work ahead on education. Councilmember Amanda Farias. And Councilmember Marjorie Velasquez. Supported both the Small Business Residence Fund and the Low Wage Worker Initiative, a sign of their commitment to increasing economic prosperity for all. Councilmember Althea Stevens. Has been a longtime voice for our young people, helping to be their voice to expand not just only SYEP, but also year-round youth employment through Work, Learn, and Grow. Councilmember Rafael Salamanca. Was very vocal in supporting the most vulnerable New Yorkers through initiatives like the low-income childcare voucher. Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse, who chairs the Council's Hospitals Committee, favored funding for the mental health continuum to develop strong partnerships between schools and hospital-based mental health clinics. Councilmember Carlina Rivera, pushed for expanded language access to increase support for immigrant New Yorkers. Councilmember Natasha Williams was a champion to restore the source of income unit staff and funding at the Commission on Human Rights. We are a body of many new members and several veterans, and all contributed to this process in many important ways. And there are important programs that nearly all of our members played a role in securing for New Yorkers. And as Speaker, I am thrilled to announce that I will be creating a new Speakers Initiative that is focused on my vision and the vision of this Council to achieve community safety by investing in our neighborhoods. We will provide each Council member $100,000 to allocate for programs that strengthen their communities to make them safer or to provide victim services. This new initiative is a key part of my goal to balance our safety priorities by investing in holistic safety solutions for New York City. In our agreement, we have also secured $10 million to help provide childcare for undocumented families in our city. And even prior to our negotiations with Mayor Adams, the Council and the administration worked together to baseline several key programs that both sides of City Hall agreed are critical to this city. I was proud that we secured the baseline amount of $75 million for fair fares to assist low-income New Yorkers access public transit. We also baselined nearly $80 million to expand the Summer Youth Employment Program to provide 100,000 slots for our young people. And one of the initiatives closest to my heart is Fair Futures, which provides mentors, coaches, and tutors for New York City's foster youth. We added more than $18 million in funding in support of this exceptional model. As a council, we also understand the shared responsibility of being a strong steward for our city's finances and ensuring economic stability. We prepared ourselves for future budget challenges that lie ahead by adding a total of $1.6 billion to the city's reserves, a record amount. This is a record amount for any adopted budget in our city's history, because we must be prepared for tougher days ahead to protect New Yorkers. We also set aside $750 million for the Rainy Day Fund, bringing that fund to a total of nearly $2 billion. This council held firm to its principles on how to achieve more balance in our approach to public safety. We also intentionally strengthened the council's role in the budget process. We know that for our city to be more successful, it will require the council's attention to the budget year-round. Also, we broke records in the number of new units of appropriation and terms and conditions created for city agencies. Now we will be better positioned to conduct oversight and achieve budget accountability. This council is stronger and has strengthened its ability to hold city agencies accountable for their spending on behalf of taxpayers by being able to see how agencies are spending their money and to exercise our policy-setting authority within the budget. I'm so proud to have secured these new powers for the council. As an institution together with the leadership and support of my colleagues, this budget is an important moment for our city, and yet we know that there is still much work ahead for all of us. This is a budget, Mayor Adams, to be so proud of, because it has so many historic firsts within it. That is good for every New Yorker, every community, and our entire city government. We are investing in expanded health, safety, and opportunity for everyone, and we will continue to push forward. This budget begins to establish a more balanced approach to safety by investing in community needs. Through the key investments in this budget, our city can begin to emerge stronger and more resilient. That has been the focus of this council, and today, through this budget agreement, we are moving our city forward to this vision becoming a reality. Thank you, Mayor Eric Adams, for your partnership. Thank you to my colleagues in the City Council for your leadership on behalf of your communities and your support throughout this entire process. And finally, thank you to the very, very hardworking and dedicated staff who helped us to reach this point. I want to recognize each member of the Council Finance Division who helped us in this important work. Aliyah Ali, Nicole Anderson, Sebastian Bacci, John Basile, Chelsea Badamore, Malcolm Butehorn, Savannah Chu, Emra Adev, Trillian Francisco, Hector German, Julia Haramis, Florentine Cabore, Jack Kern, Daniel Krupp, William Kayermate, Ray Majewski, Shima Obasher, Maria Pagan, James Reyes, Nashia Roman, Jonathan Rosenberg, John Russell, Masis Sarkisian, Paul Simone, Jonathan Seltzer, Nevin Singh, Doheny Sampura, Jack Stoney, Paul Sturm, Andrew Wilbur, and Isha Wright. And of course, an additional special thank you to Super Special Counsel Jim Karras. We could not have done this without all of you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to serve. Jeremy John, my super. I call Jeremy John Super Chief, and it's because we're like this, so we're like joined as one person now. So I think Jeremy and me and Jeremy. Jeremy John is an amazing chief of staff. Thank you, Jeremy, for all that you are. So I thank you to my colleagues, and I thank you, Mayor Adams, for making this moment possible, for making this history for the first two African-American leaders occupying space within the same space of City Hall. Thank you.
I could just merely introduce my staff and I could just bounce. I could just bounce now. You know, said it all. And it is about teams, and oftentimes you see the faces at the leadership roles. But these amazing teams that sit down and negotiate and make us look good. And we just want to thank them. And as you appropriately listed off all those who were behind the scenes, I want to do, just some of the team members that really nurtured us throughout this entire process. And Jock Jihad, you're just a long time expert on these issues. And the leader of our deputy mayors, longtime expert, Lorraine Grillo, first deputy mayor. When we talked about nonprofits, we were able to talk about it from a level of expertise because of Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright. The real emotional, intelligent glue that keeps us all together in dealing with the human services. Just our amazing, compassionate Deputy Mayor, William Isom, who's here. And city government is complex. It's complex. Not only are you dealing with the services, but you're also dealing with many people who have never fully trusted government. And I knew I had it right when I made the decision. And after the first 6 months, I'm just so darn happy that I stayed true to where the expertise was needed. And that is my amazing, amazing Chief of Staff, Frank Carone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So a solid moment for us, because, there's always a subtext to these procedural things that they happen in this city. But this is a solid moment. It's a symbol to so many. Right now, there are children sitting in a public school, and they are figuring out, can they ever reach the level of leadership because they've moved on a public school in the Cooney course. And they thought these positions were for those who came with different level of credentials. They're those who are dyslexic, saying it's not possible. Can I do it? They're those who are civil servants' parents, correction officer, mother cleaner, and mother working in the kitchen. This is a moment for them. As we deal with putting things in our budget that is going to give them an opportunity to excel, it's also stating that you can look at the leadership of this city and see what the possibilities are. Here is a person that we were in classrooms together in Bayside High School, public school. And now we are at the leadership position of the most powerful city in the most powerful country on the globe. Think about that. Think about that. And the beauty of it is that you don't have to be perfect. You could be perfectly imperfect and still remain dedicated and committed to get this stuff done. And they did something else. Everyone talks about this council on how they want oversight on policing to make sure they got it right. But you missed something if you didn't hear what the speaker stated. Show me anywhere else in the country are people talking about laws, rules, and resources to victims of crime. Victims. The only conversation is excluding those who are victims of crime. To state that you're going to allocate $100,000 into something that the councils can go into their communities and now deal with the victims of crime. Yesterday, the mother of Cade handed me a note after losing her son. She says, I'm not hearing anything. No one is talking to me. We have to do a better job to remember when someone is a victim of a gunshot, a robbery, a rape, they are still there hurting. And if we don't go there and deal with innocent people who are victimized and make sure they get the support they deserve, then we are missing the boat. And you said today, we're going to hold police accountable, but we're also going to be there for the victims who are living through the tragic that we read every day. And I applaud you for that. I applaud you for that. Also, what is missing is that last weekend we stood with Senator Salazar to talk about the NYCHA Land Trust. Now, Senator Salazar and I is about politically opposite as you can get. But we said to ourselves, why are we leaning into what we disagree on? Why not lean into what we agree on? And because we came together, we were able to get an agreement out of Albany to finally give NYCHA residents opportunities. That is what's playing out here. I disagree philosophically on many issues. You know, Crystal, you and I battle all the time on stuff. But you know what? We both agreed that we should have fair futures. We both agreed that we should ensure that mothers who are undocumented should also have access to childcare. We both agreed that we should ensure that the reduced fare Metro cards should be available. So there's so much we agree on, and we're willing to say we're going to debate on those things we disagree on, but why not start from the position of the things that we agree on? That is what's different. What this council, our teams, and this speaker and this mayor is saying to every arm of government in this country, it is time for us to move to a place of what we agree on and not stay in a place of what we disagree on. This was easy for us. When the council stated the additional things they wanted in the budget, and Jock came to me, I said, well, that sounds like me. When they started talking about increase in this area and increase in that area, these are the things we advocated for. We were so much aligned that people want to spend so much energy on where we are not aligned. That's why we have this early handshake. Because what we produced is what we believed in and was brought forward by this body here. And you should be proud of yourselves from what we accomplished. And you look at the fact that this adopted budget, as the speaker stated, $1.1 billion increase of 1.4 in the executive budget of April, had better tax receipts than we expected. But what we didn't say, we didn't let the dollars burn a hole in our pockets, as my mother used to say. We said save, because we learned from COVID that unexpected things happen, and we're not going to be prepared. That's why bonders are saying we're moving from stable rating to optimistic on how they feel about the city future. Our reserves, the adopted budget has Wreck it. You hearing this they hear this so much about wreck it in first time? Wreck it. Level of reserves totaling $8.3 billion. We're adding $750 million to the rainy day fund because COVID was not a shower, it was a typhoon, and we want to be prepared in the future. $750 to the Retired Health Benefits Trust, $500 to the General Reserve. When you look at the priorities funded in the adopted budget, the highlights, benefits access. Do you know how much money we send back to Washington in the state? We leave so much money on the table because government is so bureaucratic and challenging to get the money that people deserve. So what are we doing? We're saying we're no longer going to wait for Ms. Jones, who's eligible for some of these benefits. We're going to find them, knock on their doors, and sign them up for the benefits that they're eligible for. That is how smart government is supposed to operate. Allocating funding that's not getting in the hands of people who need it is something that I use all the time. It's called dysfunctional. And this is not a dysfunctional council, and this is darn sure not a dysfunctional mayoral administration. We're going to function, and we're going to GSD, Lorraine, right? Get stuff done. SYEP summer Metro cards, good win, smart, smart. You know, SYEP Metro cards, we're sending children out for employment. They need Metro cards. So we put $11 million into that. Immigrant childcare vouchers, $10 million into that. These are immigrants who don't qualify for federal resources. We can't leave them out there. We're bringing them into and ensuring that we allocate the funding for that. Mayor's Office of Equity, $6.5 million in addition that the council came forward with to total with the $7.5 million we had with a total of $14 million. So many issues from LGBTQ plus community to immigrant issues, all of these issues that the council persons are seeing on the ground that they wanted funding. And when they were brought to our attention, I said, it sounds like me, if anything. And so we moved forward with it. Thank you for continuing to raise those important issues. And, you know, this is a real home run. Property tax rebate. Yes. Property tax rebate. $90 million. We are going to fight on behalf of renters. We're going to fight on behalf of renters. And I am not going to allow anyone to tell us we're not going to be there for renters. We're going to continue to fight. We know how challenging it is to pay the rents in this city, but those who are out there that state those small property owners are in a comfortable place, and if you own a home, then you are already affluent. That is not a reality. People are struggling that are small property home owners, and this rebate is going to go to them. Human service providers enhancement, $60 million to assist them in their income. Low-income childcare vouchers, $9.2 million. Adult literacy. You know, and you always talked about the program of those who are credits away from getting their degrees. We are going to be there for adult literacy to move people in the right direction. So these are just great things that we are placing in the budget because the lives that we have lived are the lives people are living now, and we're using our position of authority to make sure that we go back and retrieve people who have slipped through the crack. These are the promises we made. These are promises that we're going to keep. And yes, there are going to be folks who are going to say, why you don't have this, why you don't have that. Listen, we got this. And we're going to get it. We're going to get it right. And we want to make sure that we use taxpayers' dollars appropriately. And so we watch what happened in Washington, D.C. as we are debating over the firearms that are really destroying our cities. Just a few days ago, there was another mass shooting. We watched the bickering and the debate. That's not who you are. And we want to make sure that is not what our city represents. We're demonstrating the collaboration that's needed to come together during these difficult times. We know that in order to improve this city, the Speaker and I believe that we have to get stuff done. And I want to thank also Finance Chair Justin Brannan for playing his role. And so we are able to announce an early budget. This fiscal year 23 adopted budget is something that we're able to do early because we came to the table. How do we get to yes? Not how do we stay at no. This is a city, and a city that is going to become a city of yes. And when you look at the items that we pointed out, the budget builds off the framework of our preliminary budget. And throughout the process, we stayed focused on the basics: building reserves, responsible planning, and cautious management. The council and I shared many budget priorities, and we were able to reach a period where we were together on that. After living 2 years of this pandemic, decimated our economy, decimated our educational system, decimated our healthcare system, we knew we had to say the number one thing we learned, and that is be prepared and plan ahead. So today, I'm proud to announce that together we have increased our reserves and we continue to plan ahead and be ready for the future. Labor negotiations are on the horizon. We double down on replenishing the reserve funds that are needed and to be prepared on how do we make sure we have a fair contract negotiation with our labor brothers and sisters. We achieved nearly $300 million in saving at the adoption over the fiscal year 22 and 23. And smart savings planning and efficient use of resources have allowed us to close the budget gap and make the important investments in New York's, and that includes prioritizing public safety. No one should be threatened or harmed because of their race, religion, their national origin, or ancestry. It's unacceptable. And so together with the council, we are allocating resources to prevent hate crime and bias-related crimes. It's a real win for people who are living in fear in their city based on who they are, not in our New York. Also, to make sure we're helping New Yorkers get on the right path, we are funding not only dyslexia screening in every school, we're going to fund it in the Department of Corrections. People are coming home from jail still feeling broken on why they can't learn. We're going to the correctional facilities and we're going to screen for dyslexia so they can learn that they just learn differently. Let's not only engage in a conversation about closing the building of Rikers Island. This council and this mayor, we want to close the pipeline that feeds the building of Rikers Island. And New Yorkers, we heard you and we listened. The streets are too darn dirty. And so we agree with the city council. Safe and clean parks and spaces. We know how important they were, safe havens, during the pandemic. We realize more important and how important it is to maintain and improve these spaces. And now part of the adoption agreement, we will have more rangers in parks who will provide outdoor recreational programming, staff, nature visit, and patrol parks. We will also do more planting and trail management, and will be removing more than 2,500 stumps across the 5 boroughs. And we are doubling down on investments in the sanitation services as well. No one wants dirty streets or live across from an unkept lot or garbage and pets, and it's just unpleasant to live, and that's something that we don't like. And let's be clear, I hate rats, and we have too many of them, and we have to get rid of them. Let's get them. Overflowing trash bins, rubbish on our streets, not pickup. We're going to be putting 1,000 more rat-resistant baskets on our streets. And then we want to lean into our nonprofits. Sheena, Deputy Mayor Wright, talks about it all the time. The pandemic disproportionately impacted many of our nonprofits with the years of inequity. Nonprofit service providers were on the front lines helping New Yorkers. I saw them all the time when I was out during the pandemic, and we're going to make sure they are able to keep doing their vital work. And so today we're announcing we have partnered with the council to baseline a new investment of $60 million in contract adjustments for human and legal service providers, a real win. And so when you do an analysis of this budget, we're going into those areas of concern. Just as we did in Albany with the earned income tax credit, we're placing real money in the pockets of New Yorkers. Real money in the pockets of New Yorkers, from childcare vouchers for low-income New Yorkers, immigrant families. We are putting money where people need it. Something simple as a Metro card. That's the difference between that lunch or that dinner or that breakfast. We're placing that money back into the pockets of New Yorkers while providing a service with our transit system to get it up and operating. So we just want to finally, thanks to the advocacy of so many of the council, we are proud to deliver an additional $40 million to our cultural institutions. So important. They were the hardest hit during the pandemic. We acknowledge that, and we are stating that we heard you and we are responding. And so I am really proud of this budget. I think it defines us as who we are and what we say we're going to be. It also states that we are going to charter a course of leaning into not our differences, but what we want for the people of this city. The people of this city want safe streets, affordable living, gainfully employed, and be able to ensure that they can raise their children and families in a city that defines them and is representative of them. And that is why, so I can beat Michael on asking the question why I'm wearing my gala, how you pronounce it for me? Guadalbera. Why I'm wearing it. Because he was going to ask me that. You know that? So I'm saving you so you can have your second question. Because if we stay traditional, we're going to do traditional things. And traditional things didn't help us. So I hear everyone say, I want to go back to the city the way it was before COVID. I don't. Because pre-COVID, 65% of Black and brown children were not reaching proficiency in the Department of Education. Pre-COVID, immigrant families cannot get childcare. Pre-COVID, crime was relegated to certain parts of the city. So I don't want to go back to the way it was. I want to go to the way it ought to be. And if we're going to do that, it cannot be only verbalized, it has to be actualized in what we say, how we spend, and how we look. And so I'm going to stand at this podium some days wearing my Pakistani attire. I'm going to stand here wearing my Egyptian attire. I'm going to stand here wearing my AAPI attire. Folks need to know that this is not a city of just a suit and tie. Now, I love my suits and ties. But seeing me at this podium today is saying to my Latin, Spanish-speaking community that I'm a mayor for you. That's what I'm saying. So when I rock their clothing, I'm saying I'm going to rock for you as the mayor. We're open to any questions. Yes. Speaker, do you have anyone on your crew that you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly do. I would like for our finance chair to give us some remarks. Justin Brannan, everyone.
Thank you, Speaker. This budget is really a down payment on the comeback of New York City. And like the mayor said, not the way it was, but the way that it should be. From day one, this council said our recovery would require real and meaningful investments in every community. We knew we couldn't cut our way to prosperity, so we doubled down on what matters. We're a city of communities, And now more than ever, hardworking New Yorkers from Soundview to Soho, from Dyckman Street to Dyker Heights, they want to know that their elected officials are working overtime to make their lives better. The City Council heard this clarion call and fought hard to deliver a prompt budget with both record investments and record reserves, a budget that puts money directly into our communities and into the pockets of working families, a budget that leaves no one behind, from our seniors to our students. I'm proud of my colleagues standing behind me and the dedicated finance team who spent countless hours, nights, weekends working behind the scenes on this budget. I thank Speaker Adams for fostering an incredibly transparent and collaborative negotiation process, and Mayor Adams and his team for recognizing our shared priorities of a stronger, safer, fairer, and more prosperous city for all. Thank you.
We need one question at a time, because we want to get to everybody, and then we can circle back to their follow-up. So Sally first.
Hi, Mayor. What are the out-year budget gaps? And can you, this is just sort of a two-part, one question, and can you explain why the budget grew by $1.4 billion instead of paying down those gaps? I know you put a record amount in reserves, but there's still uncertainty ahead economically.
Yes, Jacques will give you exact out years budget gaps, which are manageable.
Which 4 billion? 4 billion on average.
Okay, 4 billion. On average. We had unexpected tax increases. We had a better Wall Street than we thought we were going to have. But what the Speaker and I did not do is to take those additional funds that we didn't believe we were going to get and just spend them. We put more money into reserves, and then we looked at those important areas that we want to improve upon, like hiring and parks, cleanliness. And so while we receive additional tax receipts, we made sure that we put some in the reserve, and at the same time, looked at some of those things that we had to drill down and pay additional on.
Hi, Mr.
How you
Mayor.
doing, Liz?
Good. I have a question about the education funding. Will principals be getting updated school budgets in the coming weeks and months, or do the same cuts based on enrollment stand?
No, we're going to, and the Speaker has made it clear. She says, Eric, we are not going below the fair student funding. We had a major drop in student population in the Department of Education. So what we're doing, we're not cutting, we are adjusting the amount based on the student population. We're in a very dangerous time right now that many people are not realizing. We're dropping students so much. This may impact our federal funding. And we better now start making these smart decisions. So we're taking the money that we got from the federal government, and we are making sure that we keep everyone at a fair student funding level, and to adjust as we look at the adjustments that is going to take place in education in the future. Now we have to look at class sizes. That's a $20 billion capital and a $500 million cost. If we don't do this right, this city can be in real fiscal crisis, and we have to make the smart decisions. And so class sizes, the number of students drop. We are adjusting based on that drop, but we will never go below the fair student funding. Now, some people say, well, you have the money already. Why don't you spend the money that you have? Wrong. No, just because you see money in my bank account doesn't mean that I didn't write a check against it somewhere. People just didn't cash it yet. Every dollar we have is allocated and is going somewhere. So we take away from those dollars, we're going to take away from some of the programs that are in place and they're paying for. Katie, how are you? Good.
I wanted to ask, I know you talked about the property tax rebates for small property owners, and then you also mentioned renters. Could you go into a little bit more detail about what you're doing for rentals? Have you increased any of the vouchers or anything for people who are maybe getting subsidized rental or anything else for renters in the city?
I think one of your team members did the vouchers. Who's my voucher person? Joe. Come on, Joe. Come on. The vouchers. Yeah.
What's the question?
Yes. But Joe was the one that really pushed on the property tax. I thought that was when your
I already started texting for next year, so no hurry.
Good job.
How does that compare to previous rebates the city has offered to small property tax owners? I don't know if you know, Councilman Manson.
We each what's the dollar amount? Each
$150,000 for people making less than $250,000.
$1,500.
No, $150 for people making less than $250,000.
You get starred, you get starred.
150 for people making less than $250,000.
Yes.
Jeff?
Yeah, wondering if you can expand on
Why don't you
the.
get both your earrings done? I thought you only had one.
You got to go both double.
Okay.
Wondering if you can expand on the NYPD budget. I know you talked a little bit about transparency at the beginning. I think, is this going to help actually like cut down on overtime overspending, or is this just like so we know there's overtime overspending?
Yes, the goal here, as the speaker stated, with units of appropriation. Listen, look at our books, find the problems. As I said to Brad, the controller, find the problems. We want to fix the problems. That's the goal. And I always stated that there's a major problem with the deployment of police personnel. I don't know if you have noticed, when you go to the parades now, you don't see 5 cops standing on the corner all clustered together. And then if you find it, let me know. Because when you have parades where you don't have a history of issues or don't have a high level of threat, you don't need that type of manpower. If I am doing the parade we did this weekend, when we did the Pride Parade in Queens, there was a different flow of manpower. If you have the Sikh parade, you don't need 5 cops at every corner. If you have the Japanese Day parade, you don't need 5 cops at every corner. And so we are going to shift the use of manpower based on the either threat level or of a history of issues that a small number would disrupt parades. So we want to make sure we can get it right. Now, when I did my analysis of the overtime, there's some parades where we were having, with no incidents historically, not a large crowd, but 90% of the officers were on overtime. That just didn't make sense. We were so used to doing things the same way. And I stated, that's not how we're going to do that. We need to make sure we deploy our police personnel the right way to bring down those overtime costs. I believe we can save a substantial number based on what the police commissioner and I are doing around the deployment of personnel.
Is the NYPD budget allocated this year approximately the same as last year?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Although we have the same manpower.
So you mentioned the early handshake. Congratulations, you guys are punctual, better than punctual. Now, in contrast, the state was a little late. Do you see this, for the speaker and the mayor, as setting a good example for the state?
I love this question. This is our first budget together. And this, I keep saying, is a historic city council. The mayor and I thought it was very important, as he stated in his remarks, that we find our common space first and then build out that way. And in doing that, he's absolutely correct. We had much more in common when we started bringing the demands of the council to the administration, to the mayor's attention. There wasn't too much to argue about, because my colleagues know their districts. We all understand the needs of New Yorkers, and the mayor and I were pretty much on par with the most. As far as the state is concerned, they can take notes from today.
Both briefly discuss what, if any, impact inflation had on the budget that you guys crafted, or is this pressure that we're just going to have to contend with in future years?
You want to talk?
Yes, we have allocated resources for increased energy costs and oil prices. You're talking about gas prices. Everything that we buy has increased. So we basically accommodated for this.
But in addition to that, Nolan, what we're doing in our chief efficiency office is we're looking at all of these contracts. You know, we have a greater leveraging power. What are we paying for foams? What are we paying for gas? What are we paying for tires? What are we paying for food? These contracts, when was the last time we negotiated saying we're in New York City, we have amazing buying power, so our chief efficiency officer is now going in, and we're going to look at all of these contracts that the city have basically just been renewing. No, we need to go back to the table. We probably the only place that has a data plan on phone. I don't pay for data on my phone. And so we're going in now and saying, how do we spend better and wiser?
Housing is a huge issue in the city. Rents are soaring. The state didn't renew 421A, but you kept housing spending flat at $2.2 billion. Was there any thought about increasing the city's own funding for affordable housing in light of the expiration of 421A?
Well, and hopefully we could come up with some type of plan. Our position from the mayor's office is that we could come up with some type of plan to deal with 421A or come up with 485W, whatever letters and numbers they want to accumulate together. We have to build, and I think we can get there to make sure we get the affordable ratio that people are looking for. Now, we are investing additional $5 billion compared with the $17 billion, $22 billion. That's the largest. These numbers are unprecedented, but we have to do something else. We had 2,500 units that were sitting empty. And so our chief housing officer, Jessica Katz, they're giving me a flow chart, and we're identifying where's the sticking point. You know, spending without efficiency is just wasting taxpayers' dollars. And we are going to put our heads together how to continue to help renters, as we saw the increase in the FEPS vouchers, but also we have to go after those. Well, our Human Rights Commission is going to go after those who are ignoring people who have vouchers. There's far too many people who are holding on to vouchers in homeless shelters because people are discriminating against them. We're going to do tests, and we're going to identify who they are, and we're going to hold them accountable.
Let's do Emily and then David.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask you about funding or lack thereof for correction officers and how much you had needed those at Rikers or elsewhere?
The funding for the correction officers, just as I'm telling city agencies that every agency must do more within their budget. That was the message that the council gave us, and we agreed on. As we look at how we do the housing those who have a high level of violence, we're going to stretch it out a little longer, but we're going to stay on track with the funding. We wanted to bring on, I believe it was 500 more additional officers, but we told the Commissioner Molina, who I believe is one of the best commissioners we've ever had in correction. We told him to see how we could keep those numbers down and continue to give the safety that he has shown in the last few months.
Just to follow up on Emily's question, so are you no longer hiring the 500 additional correction officers, and how does the size of this year's DOC budget compare to last year's?
I don't know the exact, you can do the comparison or not. Jock could get you that, but no, we're not doing the 500. Mm-hmm.
It's 574.
574 is.
Could you give me the details on replenishing the labor reserve? And again, just to follow on to question, do you think inflation is going to create the need to get larger raises than have happened in the past?
Well, one thing we can't do is negotiate at the podium. We have to negotiate at the union table. We're going to be fair, and of course, inflation and every other aspect of it is going to come in place, and the team is going to sit down and negotiate that. The first part of your question was.
Numbers. You said that you put some of. I think it was.
What was the increase in labor reserve?
No, we up right now we're about 1.25 throughout the plan.
So is that 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
Any final questions on topic?
Sure. Ms. Randy, your gaps have grown between the April budget and now. Why do you feel comfortable with growing the out-year deficits with the larger economic issues in mind?
Well, it's within the historical reaches. It's within the historical reaches. And so we feel comfortable. We're going to do this again. We're going to sit down in out years, sit down and negotiate, put our heads together, be transparent and honest. Here's what we have, and move forward to be prepared. We're going to be prepared for the future. We're excited. Okay?
Speaker Adams, may I ask you to discuss further some of the transparency issues regarding the NYPD and what you regarded as gains on the council's part?
Absolutely. The mayor just highlighted one that was very significant for us, and that was the additional 474 correction officers, and the council was very vocal about our concern with that when we have so many correction officers who are out and wanting to bring them back. Bring them back in. So we wanted DOC to look at their management, take a look at the way that they're managing their staff a little closer. And again, we're going to bring in terms and conditions that are going to level set that as well.
And on the NYPD and transparency?
NYPD, as the mayor said, their budget remains flat. The council was also adamant about that and the management of those funds. Typically, NYPD budget has gone up. We want to see NYPD managed more appropriately because the money is there. We feel the money's been there, and instead of growing, we want to see NYPD manage that funding a lot better than has been in the past, and we agreed outside of collective bargaining issues that that budget can remain flat. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.